What is up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Mets'd podcast. One of the last spring training episodes that we're going to have for you. Can't wait to get done with spring training, but we got some news on Sean Manaea, Mark Vientos, Carson Benge, a little bit of everybody. We got the opening day starter announced. We got the rotation for the first week built out. A lot to talk about before we get going into it. Make sure you guys are subscribed to Mets'd over on YouTube. If you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. I do think, though, the big news that we have to start, though, with, James, is probably Sean Manaea, right?
Most definitely. So the news is that Sean Manaea will not open the season in the Mets rotation. Very careful words chosen by Carlos Mendoza. Sean Manaea will be used as a piggyback. That's kind of, I think, shocking considering he's the highest paid pitcher on this team.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody had, I guess, doubts of if money mattered for the Mets putting out the best product possible, I think this one's a good pointing in the direction of no, it does not matter because, like you said, he's the highest paid pitcher, and they're going to throw him in the bullpen. And to be honest, I think if you watch the games, it would feel a lot different than what his spring line says, which is, I think, 9 2/3 innings, a 3.70 ERA with a whip under 1. If you've watched the games, you're seeing Sean Manaea throw 87, 88 miles an hour pretty consistently with that fastball. Weirdly, hasn't gotten completely torched, but also spring training lineups doing this kind of damage, so that's a little bit different than when you see an opening day lineup or an actual major league lineup during the season.
And we all know the big story with Sean Manaea coming through the spring training was the fact that he's not really even throwing 90 miles per hour. And Will Salmon had a great article that just came out at Saturday night when we're recording this about the Sean Manaea situation. One, saying that Manaea is frustrated with the role, and two, that it's not because of the velocity, which I think
Can't be true.
I think I'm going to call some bullshit on that if I'm going to be honest, but it's just, we've talked about the early season Mets schedule so a lot this year and how there's a little bit of leeway because we have an off day, the second day of the year, and then we play 9 games in 9 days, and then we're off again Thursday, April 6th. And after that, we play 9 games in 9 days again. So I think you would just rather keep our 5 guys on schedule for that first time through. You get to that second off day, then you might have to put someone else in the rotation. But I guess Sean Manaea just has to come out and look good in a few bullpen appearances before he actually proves that.
And I don't know what to feel about a guy who last year had difficulty going deep into games, and that's when he was throwing 90, 91, 92. And now we're seeing that fastball below 90 consistently. Did he touch 90 at all? Has he touched 90 this spring?
I think he's touched 90, but he just grazed it.
Yeah, which is scary for a guy who the biggest issue with him last year was that he could not go past the 4th inning, realistically. Every time he did, blew up in our face. For the Mets to be the best team that they're going to be in 2026, Sean Manaea might just have to accept the role that it's when you pitch, it's going to be 3-4 innings at a time max until you prove otherwise. Because right now in spring, as much as it hurts me, I like Sean Manaea as a dude. He was awesome in 2024. He has regressed a lot.
Yeah, and I don't even think, he's regressed a lot, but also if you look at the entire body of work for Sean Manaea, it's like what sticks out?
2024.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, regressed from the version that we paid after.
And at the same time, I am just you don't want to say this, but you are curious about health. Like Sean Manaea, the whole reason he jumped up that second half 2024 was mimicking Chris Sale's release and delivery. Chris Sale, famously one of the least healthy pitchers in baseball over the last half decade. So again, while it did work in the short term, just Sean Manaea disrupting his entire kinetic change. And thank God he did because we almost made the World Series because of it. But it's just, it feels like right now, this is not a very good situation. And the fact that we're getting rumblings that there's frustration, I'm curious how this looks, the fact that you sign a guy for a 3-year deal to be your highest paid pitcher, and then he's out of the rotation next year. But also you have to perform if you want to be that guy. After last year, there's tons of pressure on this team just to win every single game you possibly can. So there's a lot of strange. This is a nice seesaw right now happening in my mind about where's the most relevant part of this news.
Yeah, it feels like to me the most relevant part, crazy enough, is it the frustration maybe? Is that the most relevant part? Or is that reading into it a little bit too much just because it's New York?
I don't know. This is the first line of Will's article. Sean Manaea sees himself as a starting pitcher, so it was frustrating for him. He said that the New York Mets announced Saturday to leave him off their opening day rotation. I don't know if there's any other way to interpret that sentence.
Yeah, he probably just is frustrated. Also, at the same time, he should be frustrated, though, right? It would be weird if he was like, this is the right move.
I think he should be frustrated. Yeah, it's fine to be frustrated, but also some of that frustration has to be pointed inward. There's no remark in that sentence that says the only frustration lies with the team.
Yes.
He could very still well be much more frustrated with himself, which I think that probably does come through a lot because Sean Manaea himself as a competitor. He wants to be the best pitcher on this team. Every pitcher on this team wants to be the best pitcher on this team, and this current version of him is nowhere close to that.
I think also at the same time, when you look at who the 5 guys are that the Mets announced, being Freddie Peralta, Nolan McLean, David Peterson, Clay Holmes, Kodai Senga, those are the 5 best starting pitchers in the New York Mets organization right now. That he is not one of those 5.
And I think even more so than that, like now that we actually have a really good starting pitcher on the top in Freddie Peralta, and Will talked about this a lot in his piece as well, you don't want to get other guys in line ahead of him. I want Freddie Peralta pitching as close to every 5th day as possible because he's that good of a pitcher. We have a better chance to win when Freddie Peralta's on the mound rather than trying to get someone like Sean Manaea, continue to get him back up to speed. Like if he can do this in the piggyback role, but also if we go through those first 2 weeks of the season and he gets lit up, and maybe Tobias Myers also in long relief looks great, or maybe Christian Scott's first start in AAA is great. Like there's no this demotion happening this soon tells me like, oh, this might be the beginning of a tumble.
It seems like there is a lack of, or I shouldn't say this, but the patience is wearing thin with the New York Mets and Sean Manaea. Not that there's anything wrong with the personal relationship. From a performance standpoint, the Mets might be thinking, we can't do this again. You've got to be better if you want to be that guy.
But I think that's fair. There's a lot of pressure on this team. There's a lot of pressure on this rotation specifically because that was the Achilles heel last year. Everything fell so unbelievably apart. And it's just, why are we having tolerance for this?
Over under 100 innings for Sean Manaea this year.
Oh, good line.
That's the exact projection on Baseball Reference.
Okay, there you go. I mean, I'd probably still slightly lean over just because if he's healthy, he's going to be intending to pitch, I think.
Yeah, it seems like
right?
it.
Like,
yeah,
why not?
I don't see why not. And
Kind of has to.
It might be the best role for him as well.
Is it? I mean, again, the role thing's a question because it's more. I don't know if there's a combination of pride or of like organizational trust or what actually was role he'd be better in.
It's kind of happened with the Giants and the Padres as well when they got him. Like he eventually did just become this guy.
Yeah, but that was a very different time for Sean Manaea, I think. The way that he modernized himself with the Giants, he said he learned a lot. It was the first time he used weighted balls, which was a big thing, how he got his velocity back up. He's talked about how his time with the Padres, we've kind of just like, he was like stuck mentally. It doesn't feel like he's that guy anymore. But it's like his standing as a team leader, his standing with his salary, our standing in the league when you're signing a guy to a contract like this, but also like it's the two sides of the coin where like you have to prove yourself worthy, but also like if you make a promise on a roll, how much do you have to keep that?
Trying to win baseball games. It seems
That's
like,
what I'm saying.
At least to me, this feels like the right decision as of March 21st.
I'm shocked. I like the cutthroatness of this. I'm shocked the Mets did this. We've spoken a lot in this show that I didn't think the Mets were going to do this. I think the fact that they were so, I don't know, so steadfast about it. It's like, all right, nice. I think, but still, Mendoza's saying it's not about the velocity. Come on.
Yeah, come on.
Come on, dude.
How about the cutthroatness? Let's talk about another player here. Been a hot name, Mark Vientos. About as bad of a spring as you could possibly have. He did hit a home run on the day that we're recording, March 21st Classic, right before there has to be a decision made. And I know before we started recording, you mentioned how his batted ball day has actually been pretty good this spring.
It's not terrible.
But it is very hard to ignore that in like basically the 10 games he's played, his batting average is below 100. His OPS, I think, starts with a 2. It's not pretty. It's been a nightmare offseason for Mark Vientos. It's been a nightmare spring training. He was bad in the WBC. He's a man without a position. Didn't really come into camp as a guy who seemed like he was trying to earn a spot.
Yeah, but also at the same time, again, like I'm pulling up the batted ball data right now because I think it is relevant. I'm trying to learn from the Brett Beatty experience last year.
It was never this bad.
It was the first 3 weeks of the season. It was definitely this bad. Brett Beatty didn't have a 3-ball count for 3 weeks last year.
I know, but like, did his OPS start with a 2?
No, it didn't. It did not start with a 2. But the fact that
against spring training pitching,
Mark Vientos has a 50% hard hit rate this spring, and that doesn't include the games that happened on Saturday. Mark Vientos has a batted ball of 117, which would be the hardest he's ever hit a ball in his life. 2 other 110s. Like he has a very high rate of his batted balls hit harder than 100 miles per hour, 50% hard hit rate. I think
that's what he's done for his career, by the way. 50% hard hit rate.
Great. Awesome. But there's also the same thing with those 12% barrel rate. Like this is also the same thing we're talking about with Manaea, where I'm gonna talk out both sides of my mouth right now. If you look at Mark Vientos' entire body of work, what stands out?
2024.
So what do you think is more real? The 700 plate appearances of bad or the 400 of good?
I mean, we know where I stand on Mark Vientos, sadly, which is the bad. I'm just not a believer.
I know I evoked the Brett Baty message before, but the big difference with Brett Baty and Mark Vientos at this time of each of these 2 years is that Brett Baty was
Good.
well, no, well, in spring training. In spring training, he was good. Those first 3 weeks of the season, he was bad. He looked like the worst hitter in baseball. But he had got himself into a position where he was kind of irreplaceable defensively.
Yes.
He worked very hard to become good at second base. He was fine there. He became a plus third baseman defensively. That is where Mark Vientos is losing right now his grip on a roster spot, because if you can't hit very well as Mark Vientos, there has to be something you bring to the table for this team. And right now, he's not hitting very well, so I'm really curious about what he could be bringing to that table.
The thing that's tough is I don't know if they actually can cut him, because I don't know who the right-handed bat on the bench is going to be. Like, I know you have Luis Friends and Tyrone Taylor technically, but like you need a little oomph on that bench. And if you don't have Mark Vientos, one of your bench options maybe right now is Mike Tauchman, who's a lefty, doesn't have a lot of oomph either. There's got to be some sort of danger coming off the bench. And while I am not a Mark Vientos fan by any means as a ball player, you mentioned the exit velos, you mentioned the hard hit rate, you mentioned the barrel rate. Learn how to mash lefties and just come off the bench. I think that's got to be the best case scenario for him right now.
This one's for the dudes looking for peak bedroom performance.
Blue Chew is the #1 chewable ED brand, and they just dropped their newest innovation. It is called Blue Chew Gold.
Blue Chew Gold dissolves under your tongue and works in as little as 15 minutes. Peak passion and peak performance in a single tablet.
That's right, 2 ingredients for blood flow mixed with apomorphine and oxytocin to turn up the arousal and connection in your brain and body. This is the future of performance. Faster, smarter, and precision engineered for results. See why millions of men trust Blue Chew. Now with a gold standard upgrade that's changing the game for good. Make life easier and discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our FT listeners. Get 10% off your first month of Blue Chew Gold with code FOUL. That's promo code FOUL. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring the podcast.
And that's fine. I think this also is specifically in terms of like a weapon off the bench against the left-handed pitcher, because the way that the Mets seemingly really understood how much they struggled against left-handed pitching this offseason and built out the righties in this lineup, like I don't even think you need Mark Vientos to ever get that many plate appearances against a right-handed pitcher ever.
No, almost zero.
And against the lefty, again, like it'd help to have him, but the fact that Semien, Polanco, Robert, Bichette, you got lefty mashers up and down this lineup now, even no matter what, even without the platoons. This is, yes. And even Tyrone Taylor to come in and spell Carson Benge, who, also big news. We just have to do the bad stuff first. Like Joel Sherman is saying he's basically on this team.
Seems like it's his spot.
And it seems like it's going to be with Mike Tauchman on the bench as well, which was a roster, what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word? Permutation that we talked about a little bit over the last few weeks. We've been predicting this roster, and I'm actually surprised that that's where we're leading right now. And we saw Bo Bichette play short in the spring training game to see if we need actual backup shortstop for Francisco Lindor, who's playing spring training games, looks totally fine also. It's just, this looks like a nice little 26-man roster we got.
It is a nice little roster there. And Mike Tauchman, I guess, will also be up in the air depending on what happens, because he left the game limping today, trying to run out to right field. So I guess we'll see how healthy or unhealthy he truly is. I'm sure it's not actually as serious as just pulling him from the game because of spring training. But yeah, Carson Benge, pretty awesome spring. Again, haven't seen the power, but in terms of like a slash line and just the consistency from him, that's basically everything that you would have wanted from Carson Benge coming out of spring, considering that he'd been told if he plays well, the starting spot's his. 368 average, 442 on base, 889 OPS at the time of recording. Maybe the power is not going to come this year. Maybe it takes a little bit of time to develop, like I've always joked about with like Christian Yelich, but the bat to ball is great. The plate discipline's great. Plays a great outfield. Just seems like a winning ball player and someone that needs to be on this roster every day.
Yeah, and I think the fact that he proved himself is a big deal too. And this even plays in back to the Sean Manaea discussion, even with a guy like Kodai Senga, who we'll reference similarly in his piece. It's like these guys had big things to prove this spring and went out and snatched their roles.
Yeah, snatched.
Kodai Senga looks obscenely good.
So good.
Like another one where I'm trying to be a little quiet because I think of how good Kodai Senga looks right now. Same with Carson Benge. Like you said, the power's not going to be there, but you guys, we're all going to fall in love with Carson Benge because the way this guy's going to grind out his plate appearances, the way this dude's going to take tough pitches, get himself on base, run the base as well, play really good defense. Like this is the kind of like you guys were getting on me in the comments the other day. Archetype. I was saying archetype. Archetype. That was an early morning recording for us. That was a rough one, but the archetype of Carson Benge is something the Mets haven't had on this roster in a while, which is this young, wispy, athletic outfielder. This is going to be a very, very fun thing to watch. We're at the same time trying to caution people not to anticipate like a star being born day one.
Yeah, don't think we're getting an all-star player this year. That's not the expectation at all, is that Carson Benge will be even close to an all-star player this year. But hitting towards the back end of this lineup, getting on base, being pesky at the bottom, I think it's a great role for him, especially because there's just so many dogs in this lineup that can do all the heavy lifting. Just get on base, Carson Benge. Literally, get on base, play good defense in the outfield. That's what we need to see.
Have fun, Carson Benge. Get out there and
yeah.
have a ball. Have a good time. This team, I hope this team's going to be fun. Similarly, we got a real scare a few days ago. It was Thursday night with Francisco Alvarez leaving the Mets opening day rehearsal with back tightness, and I dropped to my knees when that happened. I was so upset. But
yeah, it was hard to read.
He's coming back in the lineup, so I think he's okay. But I don't like a back flare up from a 24-year-old in March
who gets hurt all the time.
No, that's kind of sucks to hear. But we're getting to like real opening day Eve here. Like we're going to have episodes for you guys like 4 days in a row until we get to Citi Field, which we'll both be there on Thursday against Paul Skeens and the Pirates. Not Connor Griffin, which I was really hoping to see Connor Griffin's major league debut, but it's the fact that these are the conversations that we're having, I think is nice. Like too many good starting pitchers. Sean Manaea is pushed to the bullpen. Our top prospect demanded he be in the opening day lineup or opening day roster at least, and proved himself with a great spring. Kodai Senga, one of the biggest X factors on this team, looks like the best version of himself we've seen in years so far this spring. Setting 97, getting that cutter shape to be consistent again. Like I feel
good.
Feel GOOD about this team right now.
Yeah, the excitement with this Mets team is palpable. Is that the right way to use that?
I even feel like this podcast right now is just like our appetizer for ourselves too, to get ready for like the real season 2 that's about to begin.
Oh, I'm so excited. Like today, I flew back from Miami because I was staying down there after the World Baseball Classic. There was a Mets prospect hanging out in the airport because he had the big fucking Mets duffel bag.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't speak a lick of English and had someone carry it. He was, I think, a child, prospect. Because it seemed like he needed to be, shown through the airport. I was like, yeah, let's go Mets. Hit him with one of those. He had no clue what was happening. Also, super funny, last episode I said enough of Dick Lovelady, and he's immediately picked up that morning. That morning they picked him up.
I think he's going to be the last member of the opening day bullpen because Brian Hudson has been horrific this spring.
But do we need 3 lefties?
I think they just won. I think why not get another lefty?
You want to know why not?
Well, because Sean Manaea is not going to be a traditional lefty reliever.
Okay, fair, true. I don't know. I would rather my boy Austin Warren.
Also, we're really getting a very chill start to the season, pitching wise.
Yes, very.
We're going to face the Pirates lineup without Connor Griffin, the Cardinals lineup, and then the Giants in San Francisco. 1, 2, 3 to start the season. That is a nice, calm, cool, and collected 10 games to let this pitching staff get themselves together.
Honestly, thinking about Dick Lovelady on this roster, it might just be for the Pirates series because they got O'Neal Cruz, Brandon Lau, Ryan O'Hearn. Those are their best hitters, and they're all lefty.
A few pieces that have come out from some of Will's articles, some of Anthony DeComo's articles, and a couple of Joel Sherman pieces too, is that the Mets are active on the DFA market, the any kind of waiver claims right now. I think they're very, very, very loose with the bottom of their roster. They're not bound to any of these guys.
So here's the question I'll leave you with, James. Mark Vientos on the opening day roster, yes or no?
Yeah, he is. It would still make sense if I was a bad team to just go out and try and run a trade for Mark Vientos. It's just
1,000,000%.
It is just hard to find the team where it's an obvious fit as a right-handed bat who's first base DH only.
Yeah, because you're not playing third base. It's just if he's on the roster with Tauchman, Taylor, and Terens, the Mets have no options to play the infield besides first base.
Also, I do want to give Mark Vientos one more chance because, again, just using the Brett Baty logic from last year, it felt completely over. Now he looks like a piece of the future. And also, too, when left-handed pitcher's on the mound, I just would like a pitch hitter.
It's fair. Yeah, me too.
With platoon advantage.
Why he doesn't get cut.
I really think that's not. I think there's no way you can cut him, honestly.
You guys can let us know down in the comments.
No, more.
There's more?
Howie Rose, dude.
Oh, of course, yes. Howie retiring end of the year sucks.
Yeah, it does suck. I love Howie. Mark and I, as fresh 30-year-olds, we don't know the Mets without Howie Rose. There's
literally no idea.
I listen to games on the radio still all the time just because I kind of love
By
Howie
choice.
that much. And my guy Keith Rad, but it's I'm happy for him that he gets to go out like he said still with his fastball. I hope he does, and I'm going to really cherish having Howie Rose this year.
Yeah, and of course, going to be in great hands with Keith Rad. Keith is awesome. We're hoping to get him on the podcast here, maybe in the next week or so. Try and get him an appearance because Keith is the man. Talk about a great passing of the torch there from Howie to Keith. But Howie will be missed, and in our interview and the time that we've spent with him, just such a good dude.
It's remarkably authentic, Howie Rose.
So authentic. He is himself.
Like, he is completely himself 100% of the time, and the dude's a literal walking Mets encyclopedia. Like, if you ever guys do listen to a radio broadcast, and I will tell even the younger generation of fans that might listen to this show and might not tune into that many radio broadcasts, take a listen to a couple Howie games this year, because he'll bring up like a May game in 1978, and he'll give like an anecdote about Joel Youngblood and like Felix Millan. You'll be like, what is he talking about? But like, he just knows everything about the Mets, and the way that he's, I don't know, maybe going to this generation. I'm excited to talk to Keith about that, because it's just watching Keith grow the last few years being next to Howie is really cool too. It's kind of sad, but I'm happy he can go on his own terms.
Gonna miss the master of ceremonies, voice of the New York Mets on the radio.
Well, apparently he's still going to be a master of ceremonies.
Thank God.
That's still okay. He's still allowed to do that, yeah, thankfully. But it's going to be cool to let him kind of chill out too. He's been also like, if you guys don't know, Howie Rose started calling Mets games in 1987. Yeah,
We got to get one for him.
as a lifelong Met fan, it's a bad beat. Also, before we go, we saw Jonah Tong and Will Watson pitch in the spring on Saturday. Will Watson was nice to get the actual like advanced date on him. The extension was a little worse than I thought, but like his slider, like his cutter, like his fastball. And Jonah Tong he's trying to make that cutter happen. He still has no idea where it's going.
But he's doing it.
He's doing it. He's just throwing it. I think Jonah Tong might spend a good bit of time in AAA. I think Christian Scott. Christian Scott and Tobias Myers are going to be the alternates for whatever happens to Sean Manaea situation. I think that's a fun spot to be.
Yeah, I think things are looking good for the Mets. That's pretty much the spring training recap.
Spring training finale.
Yeah, finale. We're going to have so much for you guys coming over the next few days. Make sure you're subscribed on
Every
YouTube
day.
to the Mets'd podcast. If you're listening to us, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, drop us a rating, drop us a review, download, and subscribe. You can follow James on social media at
James Shiano.
And I'm Draft Nick. Mark, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out.
Peace out, guys. Let's go Mets.